Hi and welcome, and thanks for participating in this Tech Talk session. We are going to be focusing today on the price of protection as the lack of cybersecurity overlaps into daily life. So this is going to be a great discussion. As we've said in previous, I'm Joe Rafanelli. I'm the director of here at Macrosoft. We have a powerful combination of business experience and technical expertise, and we provide best-in-class services for our clients. As usual, I'm super excited to have Scott and Todd on the phone here. They are cybersecurity experts. Both have over 25 years of experience in this space. They help countless customers keep me away from the bad guys. We do these monthly to keep everybody safe, from cybersecurity attacks. Gentlemen, once again, I want to welcome you guys to this very important topic. Before I let you guys talk, I wanted for the audience, what I want to say is we'll do the typical where I'll ask a bunch of questions, but at the end, what we'll do is we'll get chat questions from you folks and we'll get them answered real time. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So, Todd, I think we got first question for you. Let's start off simple, like with an easy question. What are the most common ways cybersecurity affects the average person's daily activities? He's on mute.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
We've seen these
How are you?
cyber attacks, all over now. We've seen them take down all kinds of different systems. When they get these systems down, this removes critical resources that, your company or your employees are using in a day-to-day life, which really impacts, what they can do and how they can service your customers. These attacks have gone on from hours to days, and recently we've even seen them go into weeks. So there's a wide range on how long these outages and attacks last and affect companies as well. And the more these attacks happen, the more animosities either an employee is going to have or customers are going to have towards the company that's been affected by these, because now it's impacting their day-to-day lives and work. They're having more stress throughout the day as they try and get things done or deal with angry customers. So it just snowballs. It's not just oh, the company's down and end of story. It really affects everybody that's at that company, everybody that's using services provided by them. And then if they're a large provider that's been attacked, right, it's taking down, thousands and thousands of other companies and users. And so we've just, seen the, gamut of these run across every industry, every company. In today's world, I can't think of, somebody that hasn't been affected by one of these at one point or another. Um, and then, going into those factors for those companies is that once they're attacked or one of the services that they rely on are attacked, their costs go up. They've got employees sitting around that can't do their work as effectively. So now you've got decreased productivity, sometimes completely, loss of time. And sometimes it impacts a business to the point that, the business goes out of business and you've got a potential for the entire loss of the business itself. And then when that happens, right, every employee at that business is affected, and is now out into the unemployment market. So definitely affects a wide range of people across, every sector out there in different ways.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it really impacts the brand name, and as you said, it trickles down to the employees, and once you start losing confidence, it really has an impact there. So I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on here. So I'm going to talk to Scott now. Scott, can you provide examples of how the lack of proactive cybersecurity planning has led to productivity, financial losses, and availability of business systems?
Sure. Just as Todd, opened up with, I think I'm going to feed on that just a bit.
Sure.
Just the last few months, we've experienced major communication and cell phone service outages that had major impacts on airports, banks, and hospitals. And people were stranded, trying to get home, or trying to get healthcare, or in the emergency room. People were stranded, and it was a deer in the headlights, and everybody's looking up at the internet gods, and just there was no redundancy. Things weren't brought up quickly. This took weeks to rectify, not days or hours. So again, it proves out that a proper incident and disaster recovery planning evidently wasn't there enough to create the redundancy and get these services back online. In terms of cost, let's we don't have to quantify that in dollars. The costs spoke for themselves. You had people bringing out their credit cards to find a rental car to get home or another flight. You had banks and different services not doing business, and not doing business equates to not taking in revenue. And it was gripping. It was large. This isn't just one or two transactions. This went on for weeks, and people were stranded. And it's just the lack of testing, redundancy, was there. And then we had one major airline that, this happened last year. Look, we had an airline that left a lot of people stranded over the last holiday season. It was unfortunate. It was, for a lack of oversight and planning on redundancy and, technology and modernizing and taking a more forward look approach to technology protection mechanisms. And we had another major airline that just obviously didn't learn the lesson, or if they did learn the lesson, they didn't have the controls in place, and it wasn't tested. So in terms of financial losses, I don't know that anybody can quantify that in dollars, but it was in the billions, and it was just on one major incident.
It's a rough world out there, I'll tell you. I remember that incident you're talking about. It caused a lot of confusion. It really did. Okay, back to Todd. Todd, what steps can small businesses take to protect themselves from threats without incurring overbearing costs? And that's the key part, the overbearing costs.
Yeah, so one of the first and most critical items to take care of that doesn't cost you any money other than some of your staff time to design and implement some policies and procedures is that no matter what size business you are, whether you're a 2 to 5 employee business or in the tens of thousands, every single one of those businesses should have an incident response plan. So that means that if you're attacked or passwords are compromised, that you have a plan in place to respond to that, to document it, to learn from it, keep track of everything that happened during that event. And so having that incident response plan, there's tons of templates out there. Macrosoft can help you with them. You can look them up on your own on the internet. Then once you have that incident response plan and you've dealt with the incident and got passwords changed or taken down affected systems or workstations, now you've got to come out of that incident. So now you need your disaster recovery plan. And you need that plan to be able to restore and rebuild. As Scott was talking about these big incidences at the airlines, if they had a very efficient disaster recovery plan in place, it should not have taken them, weeks to come out of this. It should have been a matter of hours or days, very few days, if any at all, with a very solid plan. And, depending on the size of your company and the money you have, that disaster recovery plan might be as simple as, somebody manually takes a backup, to a vault or unplugs a USB drive so it's air gapped and offline, all the way up to complicated disaster recovery plans that are using immutable services in the cloud and things like that. But those plans should be in place so that you have the ability to recover your workstations, your data, your critical systems, whatever they might be. And those plans don't take, as we've said, a lot of money or a lot of effort to do. Your business, what's critical. So it's not hard to get a template and write those plans for yourselves, or have somebody come in and help you. And from there, you just want to make sure that once those plans are written, that, once again, whether you've got 10 people in the company or you've got 1,000, you want to make sure that everybody in that company understands those plans, and that whoever is responsible for recovery, remediation, and reporting, all of those personnel know who that person is, so that if, Susie's sitting at her computer and all of a sudden, a command prompt window comes up and sees weird things start running, she knows who to call and who to report that to, that she's not running around trying to figure that out, that there's all the employees know, here's, if you that whole, if you see something, say something, that everybody goes over, they got to know who to say it to, right? So they got to know that, you send an email to this person, or you pick up the phone and call these 5 people immediately. That way, all the stakeholders, all the staff, they know the process when an incident happens, who to contact and notify that there's an incident going on. So you've got your plan, everybody knows who to contact. Very simple, easy things to do for a company. Then on building on top of that, and once again, focusing on that cost item that you're talking about. Companies are already signed up for a lot of services, a lot of protections. Most companies are subscribed to some things to try and protect them, and they just need to make sure they're taking full advantage of those features. If you buy Microsoft 365 or any Google services or AWS or Azure, when those services are bought and given to you, there's a very bare minimum of protections automatically enabled. But there's a lot more protections in the background that are more complicated to enable, but can really increase your protections and your monitoring. And you just need somebody to be able to do those for you. So if you're not an expert in doing that, call up your service provider and ask them, hey, can we have a 1-hour session with one of your engineers to help us do this? Or reach out to your MSP like Macrosoft. We can help all of our customers with those things. We do that on a daily basis. And we've got experts in a lot of those different fields. So your MSP is going to have a lot of capabilities for you to do that. And just take advantage of all those higher features that are in those services that you've already paid for.
It makes a lot of sense. Like the old saying goes, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So, and it's not a matter if you get attacked now, it's a matter of when, unfortunately. So I definitely appreciate your comments there. Okay, Scott, back to you. How does the evolving nature of cyber threats complicate the efforts to maintain cybersecurity?
Look, the bad guys are upgrading and improving and changing their tactics on, just on a daily, regular basis, right? So, a lot of the old school standards that we traditionally have been used to, from, the turn of the century, the old antivirus softwares and some of the, personal firewall softwares and VPN softwares and some of those things, they no longer are enough to protect us, right? We need to start looking at products and services that have more intuitive discovery, heuristic control over what's happening, meaning they'll see a pattern. So, back to Susie being online, and Susie has a habit of visiting a certain type of news sites. Now AI is feeding that to them, and the bad guys are looking at this and saying, well, a lot of people are going to CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, during their lunch break, and they're looking at these types of articles, and they're starting to feed little applets inside of those news sites and bury them, into those types of news sites and across the web, where, you need something intuitive at the workstation level that says, look, this network or website communication control, or this applet feeding off of these news sites, they appear to possibly be compromised. And if they're not, then so be it. But, let's get ahead of it. Let's stop it. Let's question it. And, sometimes people are, not taking a moment to question what they're looking at, and technology is, giving them the answer, and it's not always the right answer. So, these guys are getting smarter out there. The bad guys are getting smarter, and we just need to have more intuitive controls in place and have a more watchful eye, from a technology stance. But then again, when we go back to, it's not all about just putting, firewalls in front of people, right? It's also, we need the people to be more diligent. They need to, take a look at what they're doing, step back, question, does that look like a normal communication? Is that something that should normally be happening? I've not seen this before. Take a moment, question it, reach out to the IT department or, your managed service provider, and better safe than sorry. And we need to do that more now than ever before, right? So, and then being diligent and controlling what your face is online, what you're putting out there. Be cautious of what information you expose on social media sites such as Facebook and LinkedIn. And, don't put your phone number out there. Maybe don't put your full email address. These bad guys are already combing company websites, and they're getting into the about feature and contact us and saying, well, here's Sam Smith. Sam Smith is the company president, and he's sam.smith@company.com. So they know now what the pathway into email. So they're able to, take just a little bit of information and figure out an awful lot, right? And then that just loads them up with armament to have a wider attack spectrum. So, just keep in mind that unfortunately in today's world, everything is targeted. Your cards, we're targeted on our ATM cards, we're targeted on our web usage, we're targeted on those nice little key fobs and scan cards that we get into the offices with, and we're targeted just every corner we turn. Be more diligent, be careful of the information you share, never share anything if you don't trust it.
Never truer words have been spoken. You just got, you mentioned taking your time. If it doesn't look right, question it, right? It's just like sometimes people just get so in tuned into their day that they don't think about it. You know what I mean? But you got to make people aware of, listen, if it doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. So that's a good way to segue into that. So I appreciate
it's almost like doing a self-assessment on every move you make, just so that you're making the right one, right? We do it with our children, we do it with our finances, we need to do it with our our work life and our digital usage as well, and then constant staff training, just train and retrain, at the managerial level.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. We're going to go back to Todd here. Question for you. How has recent cybersecurity breaches impacted productivity, the cost, and availability of business systems?
Okay. So, we've seen a couple attacks lately that have totally taken down internet services for some businesses. This has led to them being completely offline. All of their critical systems are down, which has stopped production, halted their customer base. And as Scott led to earlier, some of these attacks, the numbers are just staggering. I don't know is that we could put an exact dollar amount on those, but I guarantee you that those dollar amounts are being felt by all of those companies. Not one of those attacks has been, a small dollar amount that the company went, oh, that wasn't too bad. We'll be okay. Every single one of those has come up in board meetings, has hit bottom lines and affected those companies drastically. And that's probably one of the things we can't say enough is that, a lot of these companies, they just don't understand the amount of time and effort and the cost of that they will incur by not being proactive. If you can be proactive and get those incident response plans in place, get the disaster recovery in place, do your due diligence and making sure you've got your protections in place, those events, even if they're going to happen to you, because, we can't stop every attack that's never going to happen. But if you are affected by one of those attacks, it'll be far more minimal to the company's bottom line and your budget, and you'll have a huge factor being able to survive that. One of the big things they always show is the percentages of companies that go out of businesses after a major cyber attack, and they'll tout anywhere from 60 to 80% of your small businesses close within a year after an attack. That number is highly reduced if you have a incident response plan, a disaster recovery plan, and user training in place. Those numbers go down below, 10%, with those things in place. So, that just goes to show you how critical that can be. We've seen these other, attacks that have affected communications for a wide range of companies and end users. And we don't realize, how much of our day to day is impacted when those communications go down. As a company, or even as an individual, having a backup plan for communications not being down with your family and your company is critical. So if your cell phones are down, companies can take advantage of, Slack, Teams, Google Meetup, all of those features that are available to them when communications go down. So that's something that companies might want to think about, is what's our alternative communication method if our standard methods are down. We've seen security systems that have been degraded. Um, uh, as Scott was talking to the travel coming to a halt. But one of the things that people don't realize, on top of that traveling coming to a halt, there was a lot of logistics that came to a halt as part of those as well, because those companies are not just flying individuals around, they're flying product and materials around as well. So it wasn't just that people couldn't get to where they wanted. There were businesses that couldn't get their products, that couldn't get inventory in. There a lot of things like that were impacted as well. And that just goes to show you how one industry ripples into many other industries, and you're not able to perform based on an industry you rely on. And so always being aware of that as well is critical for these uh, businesses, whether you're small or large. Having backup methods for how much inventory I keep on. Do I have an alternate for shipping my product out? Does my vendors that I'm using, can they switch from airline to freight, or can I send a driver manually to pick up what the supplies I need? So having those built into your business helps as well, outside of the IT thinking of things.
Absolutely. It all comes down to having a plan. Scott, you're going to say something?
Well, yeah, just, as Todd was talking, you think about this, right? And the hunter was after the large elephant, right? That's what happened here, in some of these most recent, the ones that are in the media, it's always the hunter after the large animal, right?
Yeah.
But, there's so much trickle back and trickle down into other supporting businesses that you just don't realize, right? So, you look at this and you say, well, the airline's down, and, that's okay because it's not us. But then when you start thinking about that, it might be you. One of your key employees that was supposed to be in a meeting is now stuck, in a city he doesn't belong in. So, these trickle down effects are serious as well, and having a plan for those as well, within your incident plan, right? So, a lot of incident plans that we write will have a, what happens if one of our business partners or third parties that we're associated with, how do we act and transact there? So, that's also part of it. It's not just having an incident response plan that takes care of your business. It's for the contingencies that could affect your business. What underlying factors, what transferable trickle down effects could my business suffer, and think about those. In some companies, like Todd spoke to, in inventory may not travel. So it may be the big guy or the little guy, but what is the contingency plan for you if those things don't happen?
Absolutely. Very good, gentlemen. Appreciate all those comments there. Hopefully everybody on the call is getting benefit. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit. Since now I warmed you guys up with my questions, we're going to turn it over to the chat questions for the audience, and we'll go ahead and we got one already here. All right, so how can a company take a more proactive approach to cybersecurity? Scott, why don't you take that one?
Sure. So it's understanding where your vulnerabilities lie, right? Taking either an in-house assessment or an external assessment. It really is understanding where you are today versus where you may need to be, and then looking at your resources, both hardware and software, and people as well, and see how they can play a role with what you already currently have, and then identify the gaps that you may have. And then take a look, when you take a look at the gaps, that's where the costs start to identify themselves, actually. And, start looking at cost-effective ways first, obviously, to figure out how to remediate those gaps and issues that you have. And then, maybe creating a structured flow chart of where you are, and, just a simple flow chart of to where you are versus where you want to be. And I think that'll get you there. That's a good start. It's
Yeah,
a
I
very
like that
good
suggestion. Flowcharts always help me. It helps you to understand where you're at. So thank you for that. Okay. Any other questions, folks? Okay. Second question. In what ways do current cybersecurity solutions fall short in protecting against the intrusion of cyber threats into daily life? Todd, why don't you take that one?
Yeah. So as we previously stated, right, your old traditional antivirus just isn't enough anymore on its own. Companies need to be, moving towards a lot more improved intelligence in that area. You can bring in EDR, enhanced detection and response, MDR, managed detection and response, where a security vendor or provider, is managing that for you and helping you with things that you might not understand in the security center. And then adding any outlying protections that you can do. So, such as DNS protection, often overlooked by companies, very effective at making sure that your employees don't get to sites where they should not be. And then secure web filtering. Once again, the internet has a vast amount of information out there for us, but it also has a vast amount of danger out there for us. And helping your employees make sure they don't step into that danger is critical. Um, and then on those same lines of helping staff and employees, sometimes less is more. What I mean by that is, some companies will let their employees do anything and everything they want and use any application that they want. They can go download it, they can try it out. That sometimes is extremely dangerous. So companies limiting their staff to approved and tested and vetted applications is sometimes very helpful. A lot of your antivirus solutions, the basic stuff like that, they're not going to do that for you. So you have to put more robust things in place so that the user can't go out and get one of these applications. Perfect example of that is all the AI that's coming out right now. So we've seen users at companies, really interested in AI, which is great, but you really have to be careful how you use it so that you don't leak personal information out into AI systems, or your company's proprietary data, right? You don't want to be, putting together a presentation or something on something your company's designed, and then feed all of that into an AI system, and now the AI system has ingested it, and some proprietary code or drawing or idea, something just as simple as an idea, can be leaked into AI, and now the company's lost it, and it's out there for anybody that's using that AI. So very important to control how your company moves into AI and what data goes in there, and most of your current cybersecurity solutions don't take that into effect. So that comes down to companies making policies, writing policies, and training their users on those, because our cybersecurity is just behind on everything AI.
There's some great suggestions. I knew you were going to mention the AI word, so I appreciate you elaborating on that. Lots
Yeah.
of folks doing AI these days. Okay, third question. What type of assessments can Microsoft give to folks?
I'll take that
Scott, why
one.
don't you take that one? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'll take that one. So, we do traditional pen testing, and I think anybody who's been in business for the last 10 to 15 years, that's tradition, right? That's just a test against your firewall from the outside from a pen tester, and it's an event where they scan and look at all your publicly facing systems. But we also do operational and organizational assessments where we come in and look at what your IT department's doing versus what possibly they're not doing, and we try to partner, right? We come in and our assessments are not geared at saying, oh, a lot of times IT departments get nervous when a third party comes in, and we don't do that. We come in and we want to be your partner. We want to work with you. We want to help you improve. We want to educate you. We want to leave you with a more well-rounded IT security, cybersecurity set of controls and operations. So we do operational and organizational assessments, and we can look at an IT department and say, hey, you might have a good network individual that can take that next level and certify into some sort of a cybersecurity, initiative. So, we kind of help you figure out what's right for your environment. We get to know you, we get to know your environment. We then, help guide you down the right path and structure in a more operationally coherent fashion, if for lack of better terms. And we'll look at your security controls, your hardware, your software, and the mechanisms, and also whether or not you have a set of policies and procedures. And I think we said it a lot today about incident response plans and disaster recovery plans, and we can come in and help you tailor and modernize those and get those up to speed so that when something does happen, that you've got a playbook to follow.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, hopefully that'll resonate with folks. Like I said in the beginning, Scott and Todd have many, many years of experience of keeping the bad guys out. So if you guys need an assessment, let us know. Okay. Any other question? Okay. So no other questions. So everybody sees now my contact information there. So if you have anything else you want to bring up or you want to have a conversation with that's great. We do these monthly, folks. We're just trying to help folks to fight back against the bad guys. So hopefully folks got something out of this. I know I did. As you can tell, these guys have a lot of knowledge between their ears, and they want to talk. So we'll continue to do these. And again, we hope they helped. For now, thanks everybody for joining, and have a great week. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.